Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Wellness as a Law Student webinar today. My name is Megan Matson. I'm an admissions counselor here at Florida Coastal. Just to make sure that everyone can see and hear me, can you kind of type in on your sidebar and let me know that everything's working properly? And just let me know where you're from, too, so we can get an idea of who we have joining us today. Okay, good. Ryan can see and hear me. Shay from Jupiter, Florida. Good. I have Georgia, Orlando, New Jersey. Awesome. Okay, so you guys are from all over, and you can hear me and see. Great. We have an Indiana. Awesome. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we can shed some light on how to stay well as a law student. Today joining us, we do have Lauren Levine, who works in our student affairs office here at Florida Coastal. She's going to discuss mental health, and she's also going to touch on the physical health portion as well. Unfortunately, Kelly Shaw was unable to join us. So Lauren will kind of pick up some of that as well. And then finally, we have Ira Coates, who is a current student here at Coastal, and he is on our Student Bar Association Health and Wellness Committee. So that's basically a committee that is part of our student government. So he'll talk a little bit about what that committee does and how they help our students, and also his perspective on how to stay well and stay healthy as a law student. So you guys are more than welcome to jump in at any time, ask any questions of either Lauren or Ira or myself, and we'll be happy to answer the questions that you guys have. But until then, I'll turn it over to Lauren, and she has some slides as well, so I'll put those up. And Lauren, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you, Megan. I hope everyone can hear me. It says my mic and my camera are on, so those are good signs. Whoops. I guess my clicker was on. So my name is Lauren Levine, and there's my photo because I wasn't sure if my camera would work. But I am the Assistant Director of Student Affairs here at Florida Coastal, and I am originally from New Jersey, so I saw somebody from New Jersey is here. Go Jersey. I have been living in Jacksonville for about 10 years, and I have a master's degree in counseling psychology from the University of North Florida here in Jacksonville. So my role is pretty much to work with students on a number of non-academic student issues, anything that ranges from disability accommodations to health and wellness, like we're going to talk about today. And I know Ira's on the call. He and I work pretty closely on some of those initiatives. We also offer our counseling services for students and a number of all of our student organizations, and Student Bar Association comes underneath our office. So basically anything that's non-academic that you can think of is student affairs. So today I wanted to just talk a little bit about mental health in law school and give you all some tips that you can do to prepare for law school that I think are going to be pretty helpful. So, yay. Okay, well, the first thing I really want to emphasize is that mental health in law school is important for all students. It doesn't matter if you've had a mental health condition before, or if you have a history of depression or anxiety, anything like that. Even if you've never had those things, I think a lot of this information is very helpful. Some students have never had any instances of depression, anxiety, mood disorders, anything like that, and then they come to law school and there's so much stress that it can become exacerbated, and sometimes they struggle with some stress or other things like that. So I wanted to just kind of put it out there that this is important for all students. So what are the benefits of having managing your mental and emotional health in law school? Well, one is that you get better grades. So I think that any staff or faculty member would tell you that students that are on top of their game are going to have better grades. So the ones that are taking care of themselves, it's inevitable that you would just have a better grade. You also will help to improve your relationships in law school and at home. So I think one of the biggest benefits of being a law student is getting to meet other law students and getting to get to know people from all over the place. And what we find is that if you are taking care of yourself, that you have a better and healthier relationships, better communications with others. And now this also goes into the home. So anytime you're under a lot of stress, your relationships at home can be affected, whether it be with your children, with your parents, with a partner, with your friends. So what we find is that the more you take care of yourself, the better and healthier those relationships are, and they're important. You need your social support system. The other benefit of managing a mental and emotional health is that then you have the ability to become involved as a student. And when Ira speaks, he can tell you a little bit about student involvement as well. He is our chair of the SBA Health and Wellness Committee, but there are so many opportunities to get involved here at Coastal in terms of we've got 34 student organizations, we've got our Student Bar Association legislature, we have moot court, mock trial, law review, pro bono, which is all of our community service. So there's so many things to get involved with, but if you're not taking care of yourself and your mental health isn't where it needs to be, then you won't have the opportunity to get involved in all those things because you'll struggle with balancing your time. Another benefit is professionalism and networking. So the more you're managing your stress, you're coping with law school, the more you'll be able to network and the more professional you'll be able to be in your communications, which is really important for scoring internships, externships, jobs, anything like that. Which also goes into career placement. Of course, once you go to law school, your goal is probably going to be to get a job, maybe as a lawyer, but maybe as a non-traditional JD track, which our career services department can fill you in on when you get to law school. And then, of course, we also know that there is a huge mind-body connection. So your physical health and your mental health are definitely correlated. And if one is suffering, the other is going to suffer as well. And I'll get into that in a minute. And then I think just general life coping skills, the skills that you learn to manage stress and to manage your life and your schedule in law school are going to help you in any profession that you go into, whether it's practicing law, which is also a stressful profession, but anything that you go into, these are going to help you out. So I really wanted to emphasize that in the beginning, that no matter what your background is, where you're from, it benefits everybody to manage their mental and emotional health and to manage their stress. And there is going to be stress in law school, which gets me to my next slide. And if you have any questions, feel free to type them in. I should be able to see them and then we can answer them going through. But I wanted to just kind of lay that out first. Moving into the next slide. Okay. Slide. There we go. So I mentioned a couple of times that law school is a little bit stressful. So what are the major stressors that we see with law students? And most of these I put for that I think affect first year law students, because most of you are going to be planning on attending law school at some point, or you may decide that law school is not for you, and that's okay too. But if you're interested, you've come this far, you probably have a pretty good interest in law school. So what are the top stressors? I would say that financial stress is definitely one of the big stressors. Why is that? Because most students, if they're going full-time, don't have the opportunity to also work full-time. Some students do work, but we recommend that you don't work more than 20 hours a week. So especially if you're used to working a full-time job or you're used to having an income come in and that is minimized, you're going to encounter financial stress. Some students do qualify for financial aid, and then they're able to get a stipend in the beginning of the semester. And of course, we recommend strongly that students do really balance that money when it first comes in. You might get a big check for a few $1,000s, and some students, I think, are really tempted to go out and buy a new stereo system or buy a new outfit or a car or something like that. Please don't do that. We recommend that students really budget themselves well, and especially since you do have to make it stretch all the way until the next January. So you typically will get your stipend at the end of August and or beginning of September, and you won't get your next stipend again until the beginning of the next semester, which is January. So you do need to make that stretch, and it's really important. It causes a lot of financial stress for students who have not budgeted well. So please don't live large on borrowed money is what we say. Live pretty economically so that you can minimize some of the financial stress that comes along with being a student. This also goes for all the way through law school into bar prep. So we just had our students take our July bar, and financial stress was big for a lot of them because they did not save any money going into bar prep, where you also have a hard time working full time. So I think that budgeting and saving money can go a long way in preventing some stress. And it doesn't matter what school you're at, that's going to be important. The other thing I see with students, especially students who are new students, is that they're in a totally new environment in a totally new city. And so, of course, it's natural to be stressed, to be anxious about that until you really get your bearings. A lot of students have to transition. I know I came to Florida as a graduate student, and there was definitely a level of transition for me in learning the city and learning the culture and learning the road systems and how to get to work, all of that. So we know it can be stressful. We want to be able to help you and support you in anything that you might need. But there is a transition period. Some of you are already living in Florida, so you're just kind of adjusting to Jacksonville. Some of you are coming from, as I see, other areas of the country, and you just kind of want to get in and get acclimated to things. And I've got a slide in a few minutes that's going to help you with that. Another stressor, I think, is family, and so I put family matters. So family often does not understand law school and does not understand why you need to be studying so much or spending so much time at school. So what I've seen is that the best thing is to really be openly communicative to your family, to let them know what your courses look like, what your workload is going to be like, and then also set aside some time for family when it's just their time and you're not studying or reading or checking your phone, things like that. Now, of course, if you're parenting, that can be an added challenge because kids need to be parented and you can't tell them, well, just wait until Friday and then I'll talk to you. That just doesn't work. So everybody has their own unique family situation, and it's just important to let everybody know what's going on with you and then ask for help when you need it, but also be respectful of their needs. And, you know, sometimes law students tend to get a little bit self-centered, I think, because they're under so much pressure, but you still need to remember that you are a part of a family unit. So you want to always be open with your family about what's going on. Another stressor I see is adjustment to workload and material. I hear this all the time when students come, is that they're shocked about the amount of work and reading that it takes to be prepared for class. And a number of students come from all different backgrounds, all different undergrads, all different majors. One of the good things about law school is that you don't have to be a specific major to go. You have a wide variety of students. But with that, I think that law school, and anyone can attest to it, is much different from undergrad. The amount of work is much different. The grading curve is much different. The density of the material, it's just tough. And I'm sure that you've probably heard some of that in reading and learning about law school, but it's tough. It's really no joke. And, you know, when I was in college, some classes I worked harder than others, but I think in law school you'll find that you really need to work hard in all classes. So if you haven't been used to studying, I would get on that, because you will need to be used to studying to succeed in law school. And the material's tough. I mean, I've got students that come in that were pre-law or that were political science, and it's just unfamiliar material to some of them. So when you get into it, don't feel bad if you feel like you don't know the language or you don't know the material. That's okay. Most students don't, and that's why you're here. If you already knew how to be a lawyer, you would be one. So that's why we have school. A new professional role and identity, I think just the professionalism and the role of being a law student is something new for students. We give a lot of professionalism tips in orientation when you get here, whether that be from cleaning up your social media, getting off all of those drinking and unprofessional photos that people can find, because they will, the bar examiners, professionals, classmates, people will look at your social media. And so we're not saying that you have to delete everything or that you can't have a good time, but you do want to always remember that that is something that people will see about you. So I think it takes students a little bit to identify and find a new identity as a law student, and it is a pretty cool identity to have. You just want to use it wisely because it has a lot of power to it. The last thing I really want to touch on about stressors is social anxiety. So you may have seen some of the old law school shows and movies, even things like Legally Blonde, which do have some truth to them, is that students are prepared to be expected to be prepared for every class. There is cold calling on classes, and so students that either did have a history of social anxiety or have never had it before can acquire social anxiety in law school. And I think it's a fear of being judged or a fear of not appearing like you know what's going on in class. So if you are experiencing any of that, we have counseling here at the school. Any of us in student affairs can talk to you, but it's pretty natural, so don't panic about it. And I think everybody is kind of nervous about how they're going to come off in front of their peers. So you just prepare for class and you do the best that you can. But in terms of meeting a lot of new people, I do see some social anxiety, and that's okay too. You just want to learn your best way of coping with it. Okay, so what can you do? So we identified why it's important. We identified what the major stressors are. So now it's like, okay, well, what do I do with some of this information? Well, now that we're a few weeks out, now it's August, believe it or not, from starting law school, and I realize that some of you may be starting in August, some of you may not be starting yet, but you have a vested interest in what you can do to prepare for law school, or you wouldn't be on the webinar. So I think one thing I always tell students, and this hits a little bit on the physical health piece as well, is start your self-care now and start getting into good patterns now so that you're not trying to also do that and adjust to being a law student and a new city and find your way all at the same time. So you may ask how you could do that. Well, the first thing I would recommend is healthy eating and learning to cook. I think that most students would tell you that they wish they had learned that ahead of time, and it doesn't have to be a really complicated dish, but learning how to shop for healthy foods and to cook will save you a lot of time and money in going through the drive-through, which I think a lot of our students do, and just eating healthy, because we know that if your body is not at its peak, then it affects your brain and your ability to be successful. So I would say learn how to shop for yourself on a budget. Make sure you know that the fresh foods are typically on the outside of the store and the prepackaged foods are typically in the inner aisles. Learn to cook a couple of dishes that may last a few days so that you're not having to cook every day. Some students cook one day and then use some of that and bring it for lunch or dinner the next day, depending on what their schedule is going to be like. But I think one theme of being in law school is that you won't have a lot of extra time. So I would definitely recommend that you do that. I would also recommend that you get into an exercise routine. Now, I always hear from students, oh, I don't have time to exercise anymore. But even if it's just something small, if it's a 30-minute walk, we do have a gym here on campus. So start doing that now, just getting into the habit of a morning and afternoon and evening exercise, whatever it is, I think will help you a lot, because it's definitely something that you want to hold on to while you're in law school and that you don't want to let go. Students, if they don't take care of their health, it can easily decline. I know when I was a grad student, I gained a little bit of weight, and then it was tough to take off. And so some of these are things that my colleagues and I learned in grad school as well that I wanted to pass along. Another thing would be good sleeping patterns. That's another mental and physical health aspect of being in law school, is that you are very busy, you're under a lot of pressure, and students don't often sleep enough. And I bet when Ira comes on, he would validate that as well. So good sleeping patterns, if you're used to being in the summer and you're used to getting up at 10 or 11 a.m. every day, you might want to start inching that down and going to bed a little bit earlier, getting up a little bit earlier, so you're not in shock when school starts, and I'll be working on that as well. So we know that law students and lawyers in general are a little bit notorious for their drinking patterns. So we do a lot of work, and Ira and I work together to do some alcohol education for students on what we call harm reduction drinking, or professionally responsible drinking. So how you can drink alcohol, which is legal, and not have a negative consequence. And in law school, there will be negative consequences for arrests. There's bar character and fitness. There's our conduct code. But also you want to minimize your alcohol use, and of course other substances. That would include caffeine, which is a big one here for students. I can't tell you how often students have the giant energy drinks, and they've got two, one in each hand, and they're just so full of sugar and caffeine, and even if you get the sugar-free, they still aren't very good. So just be aware of what you're putting into your body. The more natural you can stay, the better off you are. Now, I'm not saying don't have a cup of coffee if you want one, or have a drink when you go out, but you want to keep it in check, and you want to pay attention to yourself if you see that your alcohol use or other drug use is continuing or getting out of hand. I think it's pretty hard to be a law student and be a marijuana smoker, so I would work to quit that, because it's tough to balance that. Students sometimes will use like study drugs, the same things that you see in undergrad. I would not recommend using any of those. They just usually increase anxiety, nervousness, sleeplessness, all of those things. So you really want to be aware of your substance and alcohol use. You also want to practice your stress management coping now, because you're going to be under, I would think, a little bit of stress moving, starting school. So you need to figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And whatever it is that you do to relax, what hobbies you engage in, those are all going to be really important in law school so that you don't lose your sense of self and that you have a way of filtering some of the emotions that go along with being in law school into something creative, productive, fun, something that gives you a little bit of peace of mind. So that's all really important. We also really encourage positive thought reframing. So what we know is that our perception is our reality. So I would start also taking a look at the messages that you're telling yourself, the thoughts that are in your mind, so that you can start reframing them. And that is good for everybody. That's a pretty good counseling tool across the board that we always teach. So if you wanted any help with that aspect, we can do so. Of course, you want to learn how to communicate in healthy ways with others. You want to have empathy for others, which is a huge piece of being a law student, understanding why people do the things that they do, where they're coming from. It's going to help you in understanding your fellow students, but also the clients that you're going to be working with and learning their culture, and of course, making other connections within the school and within the city. So I think those are really all important things that you want to do to get yourself to a good place, and we are here in Student Affairs to help you out with any of that if you need it. So, of course, now if you're planning on starting school sometime soon, well, you do want to have some fun before you start. You want to enter school feeling refreshed. You want to enter school feeling energized. You don't want to, if you can, enter school feeling burnt out, tired, all of that stuff. Now, sometimes, depending on your life circumstances, that's going to happen anyway, and I see it a lot of times, especially with my students who are parenting. You don't often get a break from that. But if you can do anything fun with your family and friends, see people now because you won't have a lot of time to travel and do other things during the semesters. So give everybody a little piece of you, and they tend to like that. Make sure you know that that they know that you mean a lot to them, but if you're not as available during the semesters, it's just because that you're going to be busy. Family and friends might be a little nervous when they hear that, but they'll see that you don't have as much time as you did when you weren't in school. Now, some of you may be listening to this like, oh, I don't have a lot of time now anyway, so I guess it wouldn't be that much of a change. But those are the things that we tend to see pretty often from students. What you can do is if you are planning on moving or you're planning on coming to Jacksonville, now I put this for mental health, but it also goes for physical health. You want to make sure that you're taking care of your business. So before you come to school, especially if you have insurance now, you want to go and see all of your doctors. You want to go to the dentist and get your teeth cleaned. You want to go and get your physical. If you're a female, you want to go to your OBGYN. Make sure that you can try to get a lot of that stuff done now so that you know you're in a good spot, you're healthy going into school. Refill your prescriptions and have a plan for refill. Sometimes students get stuck with that where they didn't think about it and they're out of medication. You don't want to be out of medication, whether it be for a physical or a mental health condition while you're in law school. See if you can have a plan for that. I always tell students to go see a counselor for any adjustment issues. I know that when I was moving to, I'm biased because I am a counselor, but when I was moving to Florida, I was living in Rhode Island at the time, and I went to a counselor to just help me kind of process some of the emotions about starting grad school, moving, leaving people behind. And I found it really helpful, so I would recommend that for everyone. We also do have an on-campus free counselor here as part of our counseling and wellness center, so I would recommend that you meet her right away and get in with an appointment just to make sure you're on track for where you need to be. Other things you can do to repair is get copies of your medical records if you need those. I manage the ADA disability accommodation, so if you think that's something that you're interested in, you might want to request your records and come see me or contact me now to find out about the process, and I can tell you about that. We also really encourage students to have health insurance because what we've noticed is that if a number of students don't get health insurance, then they don't take care of themselves physically and mentally, and then if something happens, they're really under financial stress. So we have a link on our website for the government's healthcare marketplace to help you pick a plan for yourself, or you can go through private insurance through a family member or an employer. Some of our students are able to remain on their parents' plan if they fit the criteria for that too. So we do recommend as a life skill for students to have health insurance, vehicle insurance, things like that, that go along with taking care of your health. So the last thing Next day. The last thing I wanted to just kind of go over with you all was to give you a couple of tips on what you can do to prep to come to law school. So of course we talked a little bit about money, so I think you heard my message there. Start saving money and create a budget for yourself. Of course, make sure you have all of your financial aid, Grad Plus loans, cosigners, all of that taken care of so that you don't have to worry about it when you get to school, fill out your FAFSA, all that stuff if you haven't done it already. In terms of housing, I think it's really important that students find housing that they feel comfortable in, that they feel is a space that they can feel safe, that they can study, that they can feel comfortable, because if you don't feel comfortable in your home, then your life is kind of off balance a little bit, I think. So you want to research the different areas of Jacksonville that might meet your needs. There's so many different neighborhoods and locations to Jacksonville, so you want to look at where those are, the cost, the schools, if you're bringing a family or children, what will work best for your family and where they might be working or going to school, any amenities that you're looking for. It's Florida. A lot of the apartment complexes have pools and things like that. So you just want to make sure that your needs are getting met and that you feel comfortable and safe where you're living. Some students choose to get roommates to split the cost and make other connections. That's a pretty good idea. It will help your utility, cable, all of that stuff go down, and it also can help with, I think, the adjustment to law school. Some students decide not to get roommates, that they want their own space. That's fine too. Just make sure that you can afford living on your own, because we've had some students get their own apartment and then come October, November, they realize that they're out of money. So that is not a good situation. I always encourage students to secure a living environment before they get here. So know where you're living, know what it looks like, know how you're paying your rent. You don't want to be coming down here and trying to balance orientation or the first days of school with trying to find a place to live. The last piece of life prep would be transportation. So if you're driving, you have a car, know your route so that you don't get lost and you're not late to class or orientation. If you're taking a bus and you don't have a car, I would strongly recommend that you learn about JTA and pick housing near school. We are not famous for our public transport system, I would say. The buses are not great. They do run and they do work for students. So if you don't have a car, that's a good option for you, but I would try to choose a place that was on the bus route or next to the school. If you're bringing your car, I would recommend that you tune it up, fix any issues ahead of time so that it's something that you don't have to worry about once you get down here. And of course, if you have any questions on any of those, we can help you out. There is my team. So a huge piece of being successful in law school is knowing your resources. Student Affairs is a really great resource at this school. We are always here to help and support you or to direct you to the correct person if you need something. So there are some of our photos. We've got our Dean Thomas Taggart. He's our Dean of Student Affairs. He's wonderful. You'll see me. We've got the third picture on there is Terry Bush. She is our Student Services Coordinator. You will definitely meet her. And then our counselor, Mary Schilp, and our Counseling and Wellness Center. So we're located on the 3rd floor. Counseling and Wellness is on the 5th floor. So I know I went through some of those pretty fast, but I wanted to give you all an overview on what you could do to prep for law school and keep your sanity while you're in law school. It's definitely, if it's something that you're interested in, it definitely has its fun moments. It's definitely rewarding, but like anything else, it's tough or everyone would do it. So if you have any questions, feel free to type those, and if not, I guess I can hand it back over to Megan for the rest of the webinar.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lauren. That was a lot of really great information. As a former student myself, I know some of you already, so you kind of know that I'm also a Coastal grad. I can relate to a lot of what Lauren talked about, and I kind of want to reiterate some of it actually. So she said, start now, start preparing early, do things now, get in habits. That's some of the best advice. Absolutely great. And for those of you who are starting this fall and you are looking at your housing, you are getting your financial aid and all of that in line right now, that's fantastic. And if you do have any questions about that process, please, please, please don't hesitate to contact either me in the admissions office, or we can direct you also to the Office of Student Affairs, and they're fantastic too. Those of you who are not starting yet, that's okay, and you can still start thinking about some of those things if you're even looking at next fall. And then Lauren also mentioned, just keeping certain habits if you have a hobby, maybe you are a runner, don't stop doing that. Give yourself that time. That's definitely something that I should have done more so in my first year. And it's great that I can look back on it and reflect, because I know in my first year, I was stressed out and I was worried about classes, which is good, and I spent a lot of time studying, but at the same time, I could have taken a little bit more time for myself. So now I'm able to balance those things better, or in my second and third year I was, and I gave myself time to work out, which was necessary. Some of the other things Lauren mentioned, preparing your food. We do have a student kitchen here on campus. So if you do make meals at home, you make your dinners with enough leftovers to use throughout the week, that's great. Bring it to school. We have the student kitchen has refrigerators, microwaves, things that you can use, and you don't have to be getting that fast food and doing that every day. So I definitely agree with everything she said. Are there any questions for Lauren? Okay, let's see. I will then go ahead and turn it over to Ira. And if anyone does have questions for Lauren, please don't hesitate. Her information is on here in the Dean Suite. You can also then contact me, and I will direct you with what you need. Thanks, Lauren.
I did get a question. I don't know if you can still hear me.
Yes. Okay.
Did get a question that someone was asking if we had problems or need to talk, do we need to schedule a time to meet with our department, or how does that work? Excellent question. So we do have walk-in hours every day from 2:30 to 3:30 in our department, and that's mostly 5 days a week, so students can come in then, and those are typically 10-minute walk-ins. The best way to get us is to come in and schedule an appointment, and then that's your guaranteed time. So we work both on a walk-in and an appointment scheduling basis, but I would recommend that you definitely schedule an appointment. Usually you can schedule one within the next day or two, or a few days during the busy season, and get us, and we're always willing to help you out.
Great. All right. Thanks for answering that question then. So Ira doesn't have slides. What I'm going to do is now put up the admissions office slide with our contact information. So I'll just have that in the background, but feel free to ask Ira any questions too as he's presenting. Thanks again, Lauren.
How you doing, guys? I hope you guys can hear me. My name is Ira Coates, and I'm actually a 3L here at Florida Coastal Law School. And as they stated, I'm the chairman of Health and Wellness for SBA. For those of you who don't know what SBA is, it pretty much is, if you were an undergrad and you did SGA, Student Government Association, SBA is Student Bar Association. And pretty much we're the, I'll just say we're the backbone of the school. And anytime you want to deal with anything dealing with an organization or funding for anything, or if you want to get a new idea on campus, we're pretty much the area in which you funnel ideas through. And if you need any changes, as far as anyone who's on the e-board or a legislator for representing for the school, pretty much you need anything done, any new ideas, bring them to the table. We welcome students, those who are part of the government, to come and sit in on our meetings. But a lot of the changes that we have at Florida Coastal have come through SBA. I started when I was my 2.0 year. I was voted in, and I took health and wellness, the reins of health and wellness, because I feel like this is really important to me to make sure that you're well-rounded. I know in my life I like to have peace in all aspects, in all areas, and in order to really be able to do that, you really have to make sure that you are centered spiritually, physically, and mentally. And as far as what we do for the health and wellness, I do have a committee that volunteers with me, about 10 different students. And pretty much what we do is we make sure that we're able to implement things for the school in which we're able to help facilitate those ideals of making sure that we are healthy in all aspects. I know most of the time when people consider health and wellness, they simply think about the physical health, exercising, making sure you're eating right. But a lot of times this year, I've made the initiative to try, and last year, to make sure that we try to step out of the box. We try and do some things that most people don't consider to be health and wellness. So a lot of the ideas that we've implemented and that we're going to implement next year, we've done things like health and wellness fairs. We've also done things that deal with a lot of pro bono work. But another event that we're really excited about is we're just going to do a field day. Same thing we did when we were in third grade, because in law school it is kind of stressful. So we're trying to do something that just kind of gets you out of the element, gets you out of the books, and really allows you to just be yourself. So we're going to get out there on the softball field, compete, tug of war, water balloon toss, sack races, three-legged race, and pretty much just have fun. We're going to incorporate a lot of the lawyers in the area, and we're also going to tie it to pro bono. So we're going to try and make sure we get a lot of the kids in the area out there too. So it's going to be a really big event, and this has been my last year, so I want to make sure that we do something that's really going to really just going to be new, something that hopefully we can do annually, and just something that everybody gets to look forward to. Because with midterms, finals coming up, you do want those things that are less stressful to have to deal with. In order to look at the opportunities, my committee is very, very well rounded. Opportunities that we have are pretty much just ideas that we work from the ground up. Anything that you guys want to bring to the table, pretty much there's really no limits. We have funding through SBA, so it's not like you have to use your own money. We do fundraising, and a lot of the things that we do, because we have instrumental people like Ms. Levine and a lot of the other individuals that were on the slide, Dean Taggart, Ms. Bush, they really help a lot of ideas come to the forefront. Anything we need, anything that we're trying to do, when we run it by them, they're always ready and willing to volunteer any of their time. And being in law school, you do find out that it's not as it's competitive, but it's not as, I don't feel like it's not the same as my undergrad experience, where people weren't really as willing to help you with making sure you get to the next level. But in law school, these are going to be people that you're going to see all the time. These are going to be people that you're going to work with. And even if you're on opposing sides on the bench, there's still people that, even after it's all said and done, if you lose a case, if you win a case, you'll still be able to go and have drinks with them. You'll still be able to go out and ask them for favors. They'll still be willing to help you out, and these will be lifelong friends that you'll have. So for any opportunities that you would like to have here at Florida Coastal, I highly recommend being a part of SBA and also being a part of health and wellness. Whenever we're doing, I do have to echo what they were saying about keep doing what you normally do. As far as mental health, I tell this story to everyone who comes into orientation, because I feel like a lot of the mental success that I've had is really just sticking true to who you are before you come to law school. A lot of us are A students, B students, and we come from the land of not really having to study, not really having to do much to get the good grades, because we're smart. And when we get to law school, it's a whole different beast. I do have 2 degrees underneath my law school degree that I'm about to receive, and I have a master's in criminal psychology, and I have a bachelor's in counseling. And I don't feel like it really gave me a leg up or an edge over any person that I go to law school with now. We have people from all walks of life, people who came straight from undergrad, and people who I took 3 years off. I was actually working, didn't think I was even going to go to law school, because I was making, I was making a lot more money than I thought I would ever make at the age of 22. So for 3 years, I worked, and I found out that the job that I had, I loved the money, but my mental health, physical health was definitely not where I wanted it to be. And I didn't really feel fulfilled. So even though it really sounds cliche, and I never really believed it then, money does not bring happiness. And I thought that was a lie, because I thought if someone wrote me $1 million check, I would buy happiness somehow. But I found out that law school was where I was supposed to be. I ended up quitting my job, coming to law school, and I feel like it's really the best decision that I've ever made. And I found out that the people who really allow this process to work, the people who get to be successful here, are the people who really dig down and just allow your process to change. I know that we come in and we do know who we are, but a lot of times we don't want to admit that we have flaws, we have faults, we have things that we're working on. And I'm about to be 30. So at a certain age, you kind of feel like maybe I should be, at a certain level by now, mentally, physically, spiritually. I should have maximized and figured out exactly who I am at my core. And I feel like I've learned more in the last 2 years about myself than I probably learned the entirety of my 28 years, being on this earth. And I feel like that's the reason I have been so successful in law school, because I have allowed the process to work. I've allowed the ability to ask questions, the understanding to know that I don't know everything, to understand that I may not get the A in the class, but at the same time, I know the material. I have people who are going to help me out. I have people who are going to sit down with me to be able to get me to that next level. And I have peace about that. A lot of the times through law school, I found myself beating myself up my first semester, because I felt like, well, I wasn't in the library as much as everybody else. I'm not studying 8 hours a day. I'm not, I don't know how to do an outline. I don't know how to do note cards. I don't use supplements. And I've learned that everybody's different. When it comes to making sure that you're at peace, you have to just understand what you're capable of doing. Even to this day, I've been quite successful in law school. I mean, I still to this day, I don't do outlines. I don't do note cards. The way I process information is totally different than other people. I can't study with other people. So I've come to grips with that, and I'm fine with that. I feel like if my success makes me different, then I feel like I'm willing to be different all the way. And that really comes with just knowing who you are and willing to accept your faults, but also look at them as strength as well. I've also understood that you have I've also understood that you have to take consideration where your past comes from too as well. I was homeless before I came to undergrad, and so for a couple of years I really didn't tell anybody, where I came from because I didn't want anybody to know. And I will say about 5 years ago I would have never thought I would have been in law school, but I've come to find out that's probably my strongest story that I've been able to tell other people. To be able to help them with the stress of law school, that they can't do it, that maybe it wasn't meant for wasn't meant for them, and I've come to tell a lot of people that you really pull strength from the past situations that you've been in, and being able to use those things to help you and motivate you to push you forward. I don't think I would have been able to survive law school had I not gone through some of the situations that I've been through. And anytime that I do get to a midterm or I get to a final, I'm sitting there taking it, and I feel like the doubts coming in, the anxiety's coming in. Did I study enough? Did I look at the right chapters? Did I memorize everything possible that I was supposed to memorize? And then the little voice comes in my head and says, well, 5 years ago, you weren't an undergrad, and you were homeless, you were on the street, and you still got your degree. You didn't know if you're going to get into law school, and here you are now, and you're on your last year. And so those are the things, remembering your story for me is the biggest thing I can say that contributes to your overall mental health. Because if you remember your story, those are the things that you pull from. Any counselor can tell you how to study. Any counselor can tell you how to do law school. But I feel like in order to really take it on your own and really be able to succeed, I feel like you have to really pull from life experiences. You really have to know specifically what got you here, what helped you, what motivated you in order to want to even apply. And to me, the struggle of applying really is in itself a testament of where you are in this process. For those of you who've been selected to come to Florida Coastal or any other law school, for those of you who have taken the time to actually sit down and do the application, I feel like that's a testament to your endurance and your confidence within yourself. So I'm a strong believer that everyone on this call are made up of great individuals who, if you do come to law school, I feel like you will succeed. I'm always in the hallway. This is me, who I am all the time. This isn't just for the webisode. I'm a very big optimist. So if you ever need any help, if you ever need any, just want to sit down and talk, I know I'm not a counselor for Florida Coastal. I do have a counseling degree, but I feel like I'm the person that wants everybody to succeed. I don't have to be number one. I say if you're number one, I'll gladly be your number two. And I would love to have each and every one of you be a part of the Health and Wellness Committee. But if you're going to keep doing the things that you normally do. I still play tennis. I played D1 tennis since I was in undergrad. I still play now that I'm in college. I sing. If there's anything that you feel like you want to do to maximize your health, let's get it started. I started a gospel choir here at law school, and I know that's really unconventional. But we had our first gospel choir concert back in November. And it was amazing. And I will say that you never know what other talents other people have. Law school is not who we are. Law is just what we do. So anything that you brought to the table before you came to law school, if you want to have that come out, we're always taking suggestions. And I feel like that's what helps me to be well-rounded. I don't really like exercising. I play tennis, but I don't go to the gym as much as I need to. So I do play tennis 5 days a week, so I don't have to go to the gym. But singing for me is like breathing. So I figured, hey, if we don't have what I need to be able to escape, then let's create it. Let's start doing the things that really help us to just be us. I feel like a lot of times people forget that we're not lawyers before we came here, and yet we're trying to aspire to be. And even when we get our law degrees, we're still I'm still Ira at the end of the day. When I leave the courtroom, I need to have a way to be able to leave the courtroom behind. And I feel like those are the things that those are the things that I feel personally are going to make us better students, better individuals, better attorneys, and just overall well-rounded people. And I don't have a slide or anything with my email on it, but if you guys have any questions or if you want to ask me anything that has nothing to do with health and wellness, if you guys want to know anything about what is like 1L year, 2L year, or just being involved, feel free to ask me anything that you want to know. I really can't stop echoing how great I love Florida Coastal. What I'm always here to talk, always willing to help.
And Ira, if it's okay with you, if we get any inquiries and they want to touch base with you, then I can provide your contact information to those individuals.
Definitely, sure.
Okay, perfect. So does anyone have any questions for Ira from the student perspective of it all? I guess we'll wait a couple minutes and see if anyone chimes in there. In the meantime, thank you so much, Ira, for sharing your personal experiences, your story. It's really helpful, I think, for people to see where others come from and where they're going on their path. So that's awesome. And to echo some of the things that Ira did say, I heard mention of like the collegial atmosphere here, and it really truly is. It's very much a community. And like Ira said, you can go to him in the halls. You really feel like everyone in the coastal community has your back, whether it's your fellow students, your professors, or the support resources like Lauren mentioned, you know, the student affairs office, as well as anyone in the Dean Suite. And all of the resources here, really, everyone wants to see each other succeed, both academically as well as, you know, in life and in a healthy way. Okay, we do have one question. What was your greatest challenge throughout law school?
I'm sorry, I didn't even see the people scrolling down. My greatest challenge throughout law school, to be honest, was to learn how to study. I've never had to study. So my first semester, I started panicking because when you see other people in the library, they start pulling out flashcards and everything's color coordinated. And I tried it, it didn't work. And I started getting discouraged, and then I went to a counselor, and she told me that, you know, it's never too late. It was 2 weeks before finals, and I was still trying to figure it out. And I refused to fail. I went in, I learned that I can't do outlines, so what I do, the way I study, I use bulletin boards. How I have to write everything consistently over and over and over again. And for me, when it makes common sense, I'll never forget it.
I don't know if anyone else can hear you, Ira. I lost your sound. If you want to try to mute your mic and then unmute it and come back on, we'll see if we get your sound back. Nope, not there. Sorry, everyone, a little bit of technical difficulties here. If you want to log off and come back on, then you can finish up answering that question. We'll try that, everyone. Just hold tight with that. I can answer the next question, I guess. Is there a program for student-to-student mentorship, or where would we go to obtain assistance with studying? Well, in terms of the student-to-student mentorship, there is. We do have student mentors program. When you start as a first-year student, you can have a second or third-year student as your mentor. And then when you move up as a second or third-year student, you can become a mentor for someone else. And I know a lot of people that have participated in that program and really kept those relationships with their mentors or their mentees all the way throughout. So there'll be plenty of information about that once you get here, and you can really get started in those programs. And then in terms of assistance with studying, we do have a lot of academic support. So you can go to an academic success counselor. You can go to your specific academic counselor, which is assigned to you on your student portal. So if you are an incoming student, you will be receiving your kind of IT information on how to log into your student portal. And you'll have a professor assigned to you as your academic advisor. And you can go to that person as well for, any type of academic assistance that you're looking for in terms of, what class you might want to take for a specific program or things like that. You, of course, can also go to your individual professors for academic assistance and for specific study tips for that class, or, where you're struggling, ask for help. That's a great way to help yourself succeed, is to go to the professors directly. Also, your teaching assistants. So you'll have someone who's already taken that course they've been in your shoes, and they can help you through that as well. So I guess we'll see. Ira, do we have your sound back?
Harry?
Yes. All right. Perfect. So if you don't mind kind of recapping the end of your last question.
Pretty much to me, studying was the hardest thing. I say find out how you study early, and don't do what you feel like everybody else is doing just because it looks like they're being successful. If it works for you, it doesn't have to work for everybody else. So I will say, if you can't study in the library, go to Starbucks. I never studied in the library. I go to Starbucks, the 24-hour one in St. Augustine. I stay there. I'm never on campus when I study. I study at home. I study with music. I mean, there's certain things that most people can't do, but I say find out how you study and just stick with it, and it'll probably take you far. There's another question that's harder. Prepare for the LSAT or getting your first test as a oh, wow. I will say I had more anxiety with my first law school final than I did with the LSAT, but I felt like I felt more, I feel like the LSAT was harder. And I don't really understand. Personally, this is just my personal opinion. I don't feel like the LSAT translates well when you get to law school, because I don't honestly feel like anything on the LSAT really took me when I went to law school. But I will say with law school, if you prepare, I still to this day get nervous. Every time I take a test before I get on, I get nervous no matter how much I study. And I've gotten A's in classes where I literally walked out and was like, well, I failed it. It is what it is. And I get the grade back, and you just prepare the best way you can, and you'll know if you prepare the way you're supposed to, even if you get anxiety. But after a while, you get used to the process, and then you just let it work for you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ira. I would also add a little bit to that, and just Ira touched on how different those two pieces are, and I would definitely second that. Studying for the LSAT is really about the way that your brain thinks or works, and testing whether you have those capabilities to think like a lawyer in law school. And then your law school tests themselves are going to not only test that thinking, but also the knowledge. So once you're in law school, then you're going to need to know the actual material that's being covered, as well as how to think and analyze it. So, individuals can definitely say which one is harder, which one is easier for them. It's going to be different for everyone, but just recognize that they are so different, and that's really the key there. But good questions so far. Anything else for Lauren or Ira? All right. Well, I thank you both so much for presenting today. You guys were fabulous, and hopefully those who are joining us got some good information out of this. So if you do have any further questions, like I said, please don't hesitate to contact me with my email there or phone, and I can also get you in touch with Lauren or Ira if necessary. So thanks, everybody, and I hope you all have a great day.